Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez yawned as her scout ship drifted through the empty void. Patrol duty at the edge of human space where absolutely nothing happened ever was about as exciting as watching paint dry in slow motion. Alert! Anomalous energy signature detected, chirped the ship's AI in its insufferably cheerful voice. Oh joy, probably another rogue comet, Elena muttered, straightening in her chair. Where's it coming from, Navi? Planet designation XJ42, approximately 0.3 light-hours from current position. Elena frowned. XJ42 was uninhabited, or at least it was supposed to be. Show me. The view screen flickered, displaying a small bluish-green world. The energy readings were concentrated on the northern continent. Well, it's not like I have anything better to do. Set course. Standard approach. Course set. Arrival in 22 minutes, Navi responded. Elena stretched her arms above her head. Maybe it'll be space pirates, or a lost alien civilization, or, most likely, a sensor malfunction that'll have me filing paperwork for weeks. As her ship entered orbit, Elena's sarcasm evaporated. The thermal imaging showed two distinct groups of heat signatures. One cluster was stationary, inside what appeared to be a small outpost. The other was moving in disciplined formations, surrounding the structure. Navi, magnify Sector 4. What she saw made her blood freeze. The moving heat signatures belonged to tall reptilian creatures in gleaming armor, the Vax Cori, a species humanity had only observed from a distance, known for their territorial expansion. They were dragging smaller figures out of the outpost. Tellurians. Elena realized with a shock. The peaceful insectoid researchers were known throughout this sector for their advanced biological sciences. Are they surrendering? Elena whispered, watching the Tellurians dropping to their knees, antennae flat against their heads in their species' universal gesture of submission. The Vax Cori response was immediate and brutal. Plasma fire erupted from their weapons, cutting down the kneeling scientists without hesitation. Navi, record everything. Maximum resolution, Elena ordered, her voice tight. And get me a secure channel to command. Unable to establish secure connection. Signal jamming detected. Damn it. Elena's hands hovered over her weapons console. Scout ships carried minimal armaments, enough to deter pirates, not engage a military force. Intervention would be suicide. But as another group of Tellurians was herded outside, including several juvenile forms, Elena's conscience screamed louder than her training. Navi, tactical assessment. If we perform a low-altitude strafing run, what's our survival probability? Calculating. 17.3% chance of successful intervention and escape. Those are terrible odds. Elena laughed hollowly. I love terrible odds. She plunged her ship into the atmosphere, engines howling in protest. The element of surprise gave her one good run, her pulse cannons cutting through the Vax Cori rear guard, scattering their formation. Several Tellurians escaped into the nearby forest during the chaos, but the Vax Cori recovered quickly. Return fire tracked her ship, alarms blaring as her port stabilizer took a direct hit. Well, that went about as well as expected, Elena growled, wrestling with the controls as her ship lurched sideways. Navi, emergency extraction, full burn. The ship screamed upward, trailing smoke. Vax Cori cruisers turned to pursue, but Elena had one advantage: scout ships were fast. Even damaged, she outpaced them, breaking orbit as vessel warnings reached critical levels. Damage assessment, life support at 64%, engines at 41%, hull integrity compromised in 3 sectors, estimate 7.2 hours of flight capability remaining. Elena checked the navigation system. The nearest human outpost was 6.9 hours away. Huh. Looks like I might actually survive to file that paperwork after all, she said, trying to ignore the trembling in her hands as the footage of the massacre continued to play on her secondary monitor. The Vax Cori would pay for this. Somehow. This footage is confirmed authentic, Admiral Chen asked, her face ashen as the recording ended. Elena nodded, still wearing the medical sensors from her emergency treatment. Yes, ma'am. Witnessed and recorded personally. The briefing room at Orbital Command had fallen silent. Military officers, intelligence analysts, and diplomatic corps representatives stared at the screen in horror. The systematic execution of surrendering Tellurians played on endless loop in their minds. Barbaric, muttered General Okafor, Absolutely barbaric. We need to bring this to the Galactic Confederacy immediately, said Ambassador Katri, already typing furiously on her datapad. This violates at least 7 interstellar treaties. 3 days later, Elena watched from the back of the Confederacy's Grand Chamber as her footage played before representatives of 200 species. Her optimism faded as she observed their reactions, or rather, their lack of reaction. As you can see, Ambassador Katri concluded, this unprovoked attack on a peaceful research outpost demands immediate Confederacy intervention. The Tellurians were non-combatants who had surrendered. The Confederacy arbiter, a towering avian being, merely clicked his beak in what Elena had learned was their equivalent of a shrug. The Vaxcori delegation wishes to respond, he announced. A reptilian diplomat rose, his scales shimmering under the chamber lights. These cleansing operations are a matter of Vaxcori security. The Tellurians were conducting research that could threaten our biological sovereignty. We acted within our rights. Rights, Ambassador Katri exploded. You call executing children a right? Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but Elena noticed something disturbing. The murmurs weren't of outrage. They were of annoyance at Katri's emotional display. The arbiter tapped his ceremonial staff. The Confederacy has long maintained a policy of non-interference in local disputes. Local disputes. Elena couldn't stop herself from speaking out. This wasn't a dispute, it was a massacre. The arbiter fixed her with a cold stare. Lieutenant Rodriguez, you are here as a witness, not a diplomat. The Vaxcori representative's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. Perhaps the humans do not understand how the galaxy functions. Strong species protect their interests. Weak species make way. Elena watched in disbelief as numerous representatives nodded in agreement. Ambassador Katri tried again. Are you saying the Confederacy knowingly permits genocide? Such dramatic terminology, sighed the arbiter. The Confederacy permits species to manage their affairs and security concerns. The Vaxcori have been expanding their territory for centuries without Confederacy censure. And how many species have made way during this expansion? Katri demanded. The chamber grew uncomfortably quiet. Your species is too young to understand galactic politics, the Vaxcori diplomat said, voice dripping with condescension. In time you will learn your place in the natural order. Elena felt ice form in her veins. The revelation wasn't just that the Vaxcori committed atrocities, it was that the galactic community tacitly approved. As they left the chamber, Elena caught Ambassador Katri's arm. They're not going to do anything, are they? Katri's face was grim. No, but we are. The United Earth Council emergency session hummed with tension. Representatives from every human colony packed the circular chamber, faces grim as they reviewed the evidence and the Confederacy's response. Military intervention is our only option, General Okafor stated, standing at the central podium. We cannot allow these atrocities to continue unchallenged. Secretary of State Alvarez shook his head. The Vaxcori possess technology centuries beyond ours. Their empire spans dozens of systems. This would be suicide. So we just watch them slaughter innocent species? Elena asked from her position at the witness stand. With all due respect, that's cowardice. Admiral Chen raised her hand. Lieutenant Rodriguez, while I admire your passion, we must consider the strategic realities. Director Park of Intelligence Services stepped forward, activating a holographic display. New information has come to light. The Vaxcori have been systematically expanding for over 3 centuries. They've absorbed or displaced at least 7 known spacefaring species. Displaced. The euphemism hung in the air like poison. Our analysis suggests the Tellurians were targeted because their medical research threatened Vaxcori biological warfare advantages. Park continued. And humanity may be next on their list. Our genetic adaptability poses a similar threat. Ambassador Katri's voice was cold as she added, the diplomatic corps has made a disturbing discovery. Several minor species have mysteriously gone extinct within Confederacy space over the past decade. All had territories adjacent to Vaxcori expansion zones. President Mbeki, who had been listening silently, finally stood. Throughout Earth's history, we've seen this pattern before. One group decides another is beneath consideration, expendable, and good people stand by. telling themselves it's not their problem. The chamber fell silent. We've learned this lesson in blood, Mbeki continued. From the Holocaust to the climate refugees crisis to the Mars colony purge. Each time we said never again. And each time we failed until it was almost too late. She looked around the room, meeting each gaze. I will not add another genocide to humanity's list of shameful inactions. Not while I hold this office. The Secretary of Defense appeared troubled. Madam President, the military cost. What is the cost of our conscience, Secretary? Mbeki interrupted. What price do we put on our humanity? One by one, the colony representatives stood. Never again, said the Mars delegate. Never again, echoed Europa. The phrase rippled around the chamber, gathering strength. President Mbeki nodded. The decision is unanimous. Humanity will not stand by. Attention on deck. The assembled officers snapped to attention as Commander Jackson Quinn strode into the briefing room aboard the UES Thermopylae. His reputation preceded him. Decorated in the Proxima conflict, brilliant tactician and owner of the galaxy's most inappropriate sense of humor. At ease, people. Take a seat. We've got a lot to cover and very little time before we all die gloriously for a species most of you have never met. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Quinn activated the holo display. This is Operation History Lesson. Earth High Command has given us 30 days to assemble the most effective fighting force in human history. After that we deploy to Vax Cori space to stop their next cleansing operation. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez, newly assigned as Quinn's intelligence officer, studied the faces around her. The best ship captains, marine commanders, and special forces operators, from across human space, all pulled from their regular duties for this mission. Sir, ventured Captain Singh, the Vax Cori outmatch us technologically in almost every category. Almost every category, Quinn emphasized with a predatory grin. Intelligence suggests they've never encountered our phase shift technology or quantum torpedoes. Both were developed after our last official contact. Elena tapped her datapad. The Vax Cori have a significant blind spot. They've grown accustomed to overwhelming technological superiority. They haven't fought a near-peer adversary in over a century, which means they're complacent, Quinn added. And while their ships are more advanced, our tactical simulations suggest their combat doctrine is rigid, predictable. The holo display shifted to show Vax Cori ship configurations. Their vessels emphasize frontal firepower, Elena explained. Analysis of Lieutenant Rodriguez's footage shows minimal point defense systems and vulnerable engine formations. Across the Thermopylae and 5 other capital ships, similar briefings were happening simultaneously. In hangars, engineers modified fighters with experimental cloaking systems. In armories, Marines trained with new powered armor designed to counter Vax Cori weapons. We'll be conducting joint exercises in the Kuiper Belt, away from prying eyes. Quinn continued. Each ship will rotate through combat simulations against mock Vax Cori forces. Days blurred together, failed simulations, revised tactics, equipment modifications, intelligence reports streaming in from covert observation posts near Vax Cori territory. Quinn pushed his people to their limits, then beyond. When a simulation ended in total defeat, he simply reset it with a sardonic "Congratulations, everyone. We've identified another way to die. Let's find a few more." On the eve of deployment, Quinn gathered his task force commanders. "Tomorrow we make the jump," he said, uncharacteristically serious. "Intelligence has confirmed that the Vax Cori are moving against another Tellurian outpost in the Aegis sector." He looked at each officer in turn. "I won't lie to you. This mission is completely suicidal by any reasonable military assessment." The room fell silent. Quinn's face split into his trademark grin. "But reasonable military assessments don't account for humanity's absolute commitment to being the biggest pain in the ass the galaxy has ever seen. We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of violence, and I, for one, am thrilled to finally put that experience to good use." Elena found herself laughing along with the others, the tension broken. "Questions?" Quinn asked. No one spoke. "Then get some sleep. Tomorrow we teach the galaxy why you don't commit war crimes when humans are watching." The human task force dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Aegis system.
Sensors immediately pinging multiple Vax-Cori warships in orbit around the fourth planet. Right on schedule, Commander Quinn remarked, watching the tactical display from the Thermopolis bridge. Looks like our intelligence was correct. They're already beginning their operation. Elena's station showed real-time scans of the planet's surface, confirmed Tellurian life signs in the research outpost. Vax-Cori ground forces deploying in standard encirclement pattern. Quinn's expression hardened. All ships, battle stations, fighters, prepare for launch. Let's introduce ourselves. The human fleet accelerated toward the planet, still undetected thanks to their advanced stealth systems. 5 minutes to optimal engagement range, reported the tactical officer. Quinn activated the fleet-wide channel. This is Commander Quinn. In 5 minutes we're going to remind the galaxy that humans don't like bullies. History is full of technologically superior forces who thought victory was guaranteed. They all have one thing in common: they lost. Today we add the Vax-Cori to that list.
On the planet below, the Vax-Cori troops had surrounded the Tellurian outpost, their commander broadcasting surrender demands. Weapons hot. Disengage stealth systems on my mark, Quinn ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. 6 human warships and their fighter escorts suddenly appeared on Vax-Cori sensors, already inside their defensive perimeter. Open channel to the Vax-Cori fleet, Quinn commanded. The main view screen flickered to show a reptilian face, eyes widening in surprise. This is Commander Jackson Quinn of the United Earth Navy. You are engaged in prohibited military actions against non-combatants. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Vax-Cori commander recovered quickly from his shock. Human vessels, this matter does not concern you. Leave now or be destroyed. Quinn sighed dramatically. Why do they always choose the hard way? All ships execute battle plan Thermopylae. The human fleet split into pre-planned attack groups, hitting the unprepared Vax-Cori vessels from multiple vectors. Quantum torpedoes bypassed shields, striking directly at vulnerable engine sections. Human fighters using phase shift technology passed through Vax-Cori point defenses unharmed. Sir, ground team reports Vax-Cori forces are breaking formation, confused by the orbital battle, Elena reported. Perfect. Deploy the Marines, Quinn ordered. Dropships screamed through the atmosphere, landing between the Vax-Cori troops and the Tellurian outpost. Human Marines in powered armor engaged the attackers, creating a defensive line while evacuation shuttles landed behind them. 3 Vax-Cori cruisers had already been disabled, their crews abandoning ship. The others were regrouping, preparing a coordinated response. This won't last, Quinn muttered. Status on the evacuation, 60% complete, Elena replied. 10 minutes until all Tellurians are aboard. We may not have 10 minutes. The battle intensified as the Vax-Cori recovered from their initial surprise. A human destroyer took heavy damage, limping away from the engagement zone. Casualties? Quinn asked. Minimal so far. The destroyer Shackleton reports 5 dead, 22 wounded. Quinn's jaw tightened. Make sure those names reach my desk. Finally, the last evacuation shuttle cleared the atmosphere. All ground forces extracted. Tellurians secure, Elena announced. Full retreat. Jump coordinates already distributed. As the human fleet disengaged, they towed a captured Vax-Cori command vessel. Inside its secure chamber, Elena faced the captured Vax-Cori commander. Why? The alien demanded, his scales flushed with anger. Why would your species risk war for these lesser beings? Elena studied him, wondering how to explain humanity to someone who saw the universe in such stark hierarchies. Because we used to be you, she finally said. Our history is written in the blood of those we deemed lesser. We learned eventually that strength isn't measured by who you can destroy, but by who you protect. The commander hissed in contempt. A philosophy of the weak. Quinn, entering the chamber, laughed bitterly. That's where you're wrong. It takes no strength to kill the defenseless. Any coward can do that. The true test of power is standing between the predator and the prey. He leaned closer to the alien. And humanity has had a lot of practice being both. The Vax-Cori Supreme Commander's speech blared across every communication channel in Confederacy space. Behind him, footage showed the aftermath of the Aegis engagement, disabled Vax-Cori ships and retreating human vessels. Their unprovoked attack on our peacekeeping forces constitutes an act of war, he continued, conveniently omitting any mention of the attempted genocide. Elena watched the broadcast from the UES Thermopylae mess hall, surrounded by off-duty personnel. Peacekeeping forces, she repeated incredulously. That's a creative interpretation of systematic slaughter. Propaganda. 101, Quinn remarked, sliding into the seat across from her. Control the narrative. The broadcast cut to the Galactic Confederacy's arbiter. The Confederacy formally censures humanity for their disruptive actions. Such unauthorized military intervention threatens galactic peace. Oh yes, the peace of the graveyard, muttered a Marine lieutenant. Very peaceful for the Vax Cori, I imagine. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Quinn's comm unit chirped urgently. Multiple Vax Cori battle groups have entered human space, the tactical officer reported. New Eden colony is under attack. Proxima Centauri reports enemy ships in orbit. Long-range sensors detect additional forces moving toward Terra Nova and Epsilon Eridani. Quinn's face hardened. So it begins. The next 3 weeks were brutal. Human forces spread thin across multiple colonies, fought desperately to evacuate civilians and slow the Vax Cori advance. The technological gap became increasingly apparent as casualties mounted. On New Eden, Marines held the spaceport for 12 hours against overwhelming odds, allowing 30,000 colonists to escape before the position was overrun. At Proxima, a single destroyer sacrificed itself to intercept bombardment intended for the main settlement. Elena found herself reassigned to Earth, coordinating intelligence from the scattered fleet. Reports flooded in, colonies under siege, ships lost, heroes made. The Vax Cori were learning to counter human tactics, adapting their strategies to neutralize phase shift technology and quantum torpedoes. Meanwhile, Vax Cori propaganda portrayed humans as dangerous primitives who didn't understand their place in the galactic order. Public broadcasts featured supposed experts discussing the human problem and the necessity of species quarantine. They're painting us as rabid animals, Ambassador Khatri observed during a crisis meeting. Too unpredictable and violent to be allowed free movement in civilized space. President Mbeki frowned. The irony being that we're fighting to stop actual violence. There's something else, Elena interjected, displaying intelligence reports. We're detecting unusual communication patterns between several supposedly neutral species. They're watching this conflict very closely. Admiral Chen studied the data. Potential allies. Possibly. Many have suffered from Vax Cori expansion but lacked the strength to resist alone. A priority transmission interrupted the meeting, Quinn's face appearing on the main screen. Madam President, we've made contact with Tellurian leadership. They've offered access to hidden technology they've kept concealed from the Confederacy. And they're not the only ones reaching out. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in the war room. The status of New Horizon colony? Mbeki asked. Quinn's expression darkened. The Vax Cori have assembled their largest fleet yet. They're surrounding the planet, demanding unconditional surrender and species quarantine. Casualties if we refuse. 3 million colonists. Silence fell as the weight of the decision settled over them. Then we need a new strategy, Mbeki finally said. One that changes the game entirely. The Vax Cori armada hung in space around New Horizon, a planet of gleaming cities and azure oceans. 67 warships arranged in perfect formation, the largest battle group ever assembled by the Reptilian Empire. On the Thermopylae bridge, Quinn surveyed the tactical display with a grim expression. His task force, reinforced with every available ship, still counted only 29 vessels. Their commander is hailing us, Elena reported. The view screen activated to show Supreme Commander Savick, his scaled face radiating smug confidence. Commander Quinn, I offer you the chance to minimize casualties. Surrender New Horizon. Submit to species quarantine. These terms are non-negotiable. Quinn's mouth quirked into a half-smile. You know, Supreme Commander, there's an old human saying, never corner something more dangerous than you. Savick's forked tongue flicked out dismissively. Your primitive threats mean nothing. You have one planetary rotation to surrender. The transmission ended. He's certainly convinced of his victory, Elena observed. Because he's counting ships and weapons, Quinn replied. But this war isn't going to be won with torpedoes. He turned to his communications officer. Execute Operation Spotlight. Across human space, quantum transmitters activated simultaneously. The footage Elena had recorded weeks ago, Vax Cori troops executing surrendering Tellurians, began broadcasting on every frequency used by Confederacy species. But it wasn't just the original footage. Alongside it played recordings from a dozen worlds, Vax Cori cleansing operations against other species, captured by hidden cameras placed by human intelligence operatives, or provided by survivors. Let the galaxy see what their vaunted non-interference policy has allowed, Quinn said softly. The transmission bypassed official Confederacy channels, reaching civilian populations directly. Across 100 worlds, beings of all species watched in horror as the truth was laid bare. Within hours, protests erupted in major Confederacy centers. Several minor species, long intimidated into silence, began broadcasting their own evidence of Vax Cori atrocities. Around New Horizon, the Vax Cori fleet remained in position, awaiting the scheduled surrender. They detected no unusual military movements from the humans. What they failed to notice were the small, stealth courier ships slipping between systems, carrying human diplomats to clandestine meetings. In her makeshift office aboard the Thermopylae, Elena welcomed representatives from the Tellurian High Council. Your broadcast was effective, the senior Tellurian clicked through translator implants. Many who willfully ignored our plight can no longer pretend ignorance. Elena nodded. But awareness alone won't save New Horizon. No, agreed the Tellurian. That is why we brought this. A data crystal materialized on the table. Technology we have hidden from the Confederacy for generations. Shielding systems that can withstand Vax Cori weapons. Why share this now? Elena asked. Because humanity did what no other species dared. You fought for those who could not fight for themselves. Similar scenes played out across human space as representatives from previously neutral species arrived with offerings, advanced weapons, tactical data, even ships. The Morigi brought sensor jamming technology. The Pax contributed their matter-phasing drives. The Durlan offered their asteroid shipyards. As the deadline for New Horizons surrender approached, Quinn addressed his expanded fleet, now numbering over 100 vessels of various species. Today the Vax Cori expect a surrender. Instead, they're getting a revolution. He gestured to the tactical display, showing new allied ships arriving hourly. The galaxy is awakening to a simple truth: tyrants only retain power when good people do nothing. And today we're doing something. The Vax Cori homeworld glittered like a jewel against the void, its orbital defense platforms standing vigilant. For centuries, no enemy had dared approach this fortress among the stars, until today. The combined fleet emerged from FTL jump points simultaneously, hundreds of vessels representing 24 formerly subjugated species, led by the battle-scarred UE's Thermopylae. Quite the reception committee, Quinn remarked, noting the hastily assembled Vax Cori defense fleet. They never expected to fight on their home turf. The Vax Cori Supreme Council had retreated to their ancestral fortress, broadcasting defiant messages about racial superiority and their divine right to rule. They still don't understand, Elena said, standing beside Quinn on the bridge. Even now, they think this is about conquest. Quinn nodded. Let's enlighten them. The battle was fierce but surprisingly brief. The Vax Cori, accustomed to overwhelming force against isolated opponents, found themselves outmaneuvered by the coalition's diverse tactics and technologies. When the orbital platforms fell, Quinn led a delegation to the surface, representatives from every species that had suffered under Vax Cori expansion. In the ancient council chamber, Supreme Commander Savick and his fellow leaders were brought before an improvised tribunal.